everyone, my name is Agnes Fries and I'm the creator of an online design tool called the Grid Designer. The Grid Designer is used to create color charts for multiple crafts that includes cross stitch, latch hook, crochet, knitting, corner to corner crochet, and basically any craft where you need to create a grid-based color chart. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the pattern for a children's latch hook name rug. This is a blog post. It's located at freeze-works.com /children's-name-rug. You can see that up here in the upper left if you want to get to the blog post. Basically, what I'm going to do is show you how to make the pattern for this. Now, if you are not someone who does latch hook, this can still be a good video for you to learn about how to use the drawing tools in the Grid Designer. So specifically, I'm going to be using the text tool, the line tool, the fill tool, and the outline tool. So if you want to see how those things are used in the Grid Designer, then stick around and watch and sit through this video, and you'll see all of those things in here. Now, also, when you make a design for something like this in the Grid Designer, it's not necessarily just a latch hook rug design. This could be done in cross stitch. It could be done in lots of different things. Originally, I started out as a quilt for my grandson Calvin. And what I did was I wanted to make a rug that was basically like the top of this quilt. So I did some calculations. I used something called the ratio calculator, which is described in my blog post. It's part of the Grid Designer also. Just to recalculate the size of this rectangle that's at the top. So I wanted to make it a little bit smaller. This is 38, it's 38 inches across here, and it's going to be 36 inches on the rug. And I have something called the ratio calculator that basically recalculates rectangle sizes for you. So it was originally 14 inches tall, and I know that I want my rug to be now 13.26 inches. That was from the ratio calculator. You can read the blog post to find out more about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Grid Designer, how we actually go about creating this pattern. So let's go over here to the Grid Designer. This is the pattern that I want to recreate. I'm going to show you how to draw this. We'll be using the text tool, line tool, fill tool, and the outline tool to do all of this. So I'm going to start with the original. If I just refresh this. Okay, then we get back to our original default project. So this is where you get to if you start at freeze-works.com /grid designer, or you can go to freeze-works.com, and there's a link there on that main page that will take you to the Grid Designer. Okay, so we need to create our new project now. So we're going to go to Project, New Project. Okay. So now we have to select the type of our project, which in this case is going to be latch hook. So we'll pick latch hook here, and like I'm saying, if you wanted to make a cross stitch that did something very similar, that would be perfectly fine. Or if you're working in, corner to corner crochet or something else, all of those things are possible. So, so in this case, I'm picking latch hook, and for latch hook, we have some common mesh sizes. These are canvas mesh sizes. And I did this on a 5 mesh, a latch hook canvas with a 5 mesh. That means 5 holes per inch. Okay, so I picked that. And then when you pick this selection up here, this gets filled in here. Now you can also change this to something else. If you have some other kind of fabric or mesh or canvas or something that you're working on that's like 8 holes per inch, you can type in here whatever you want to select. But I'm using a 5 mesh for this particular example. Okay, now I know from my previous thing explained in my blog post about the ratio calculator that I want my final project to be 13.26 inches high and 36 inches across. So now I have to figure out how many rows and columns is that. If I'm working with this latch hook canvas 5 mesh, how many rows and columns is going to make the rug that size? Well, there's an easy way to figure that out, and there's a calculator here. You click on the calculator button, and now you can put your height and width in real world inches. You can also do centimeters. If you have this set to do centimeters, you can do centimeters, so inches or centimeters. And then I'm going to put in my height, which is 13.26. That's something I calculated with the ratio calculator. And now for the width, we're going to do 36 inches. Okay, so we're doing that by that. And now we click this button down here. It says calculate number of rows and columns. Okay, now we know that 67 rows and 180 columns is about that size. And there's more detailed information right down here under the button. 67 rows makes a height of 13.4 inches. In other words, the number of rows can never make exactly 13.26 inches. So I'm not going to get that exactly. I could get 13.4, or I could get, it would actually be 13.2 if I use one row less. And that's close enough. That would be okay. And 180 columns for a width of 36 inches. So that's exact. So 180 columns of latch hook 5 mesh is going to give me a 36-inch width. So that's one that is an exact one. This one is, kind of up in the air. It could be a little bit bigger, but I think I'm going to make it one less. I'm just going to go with the 66 rows. And do it like that. So, okay, so I've got 66 rows here. Okay, now the last thing to select here is our palette. Now I have lots of predefined palettes in here. And the one that I used for this rug is Hirschner's Latch Hook Rug Yarn. Okay, so I'm going to pick that particular one. Also, there's DMC floss if you're doing cross stitching. There are other yarns there. I have lots of worsted weight yarns in there, and I'll be putting in additional yarns as I go along. It's also possible for you to put your own colors in and that kind of thing. But it's easier to pick a particular palette if you know that you're going to be using something. Okay, so let's go say create project. Okay, and now we have a grid. Okay, you can make this smaller and larger with the zoom in and the zoom out buttons. So if I zoom in, I can get it a little bit bigger. We'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Now, the first thing that you want to do when you get into your project, make a new project, is you want to set the background color and clear your screen to be that color. Initially, when you go and you pick a palette, here are all the colors in the Hirschner's Latch Hook Rug Yarn, then the program, the grid designer, will just try and pick 2 colors for you. So these are just automatically picked by the grid designer. They don't mean anything in particular. You just need to pick something that you want to be working on. So what I want is I want my background color to be white because most of my pattern will be white. And I just want to draw on the blue lines on the outside and do the writing in the middle. So I'm going to set my background color to white. There we go. Now that does not change this because it doesn't want to, we don't want to change your drawing, inadvertently. We don't want to start just when you change the values up here, we don't want to start, redoing things. So the simplest way to do this and the safest way to do it is to come down here and say select all. Then we're going to clear this screen to be the background color that we've selected. So I say select all, and we get a little box all around our screen. And then if we press this clear all button, then it will all be white. There are multiple ways to do this. You could use the fill and click on, use the right mouse button to clear the whole screen. You can also click on this without anything being selected, but it also, in that case, it kind of is for if you want to restart your project with the same size grid and it will clear the project name also in that case. But so the simplest way to do it and the safest way to do it is to go in here, pick the select all, and then once it's all selected, just clear that space with the clear all button. Okay, so now we've got a nice white background. Now what we want to do is we want to draw the blue outline around the edge. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to use this line tool. Okay, when I click the line tool, it becomes green. And if it's the first time you've used the line tool, you're going to get a hint that pops up that says using the mouse, drag across the grid to create a line in the foreground color. Now that is with the left mouse button. You can also make lines in the background color if you use the right mouse button. And you can always cancel any of these buttons that turn green like this. You can always cancel them by clicking them again. But first we have to deal with this pop-up. So if you don't want to see the hint again, you click the got it, and then you click the close box to make that go away. And the next time you click the line tool, it will not do that. It will not pop up a hint for you. Okay, so now what we need to do is set our foreground color. Let's get our labels in here. And I'm going to set that outside color to dark cornflower. And if I start to draw lines like this, you know, I'm holding the mouse down. So you just click, hold the mouse down, and then drag your line to wherever you want to go. And then when you let the mouse up, then it draws the line there for you. Now what I want, and I did this also with the ratio calculator. I wanted to, I used the ratio calculator to figure out how big I wanted my top border to be to make it proportional to the original rectangle that I had in the quilt so that it would look about the same. And I decided that I wanted these lines to be 9 cells wide. So this line tool, when you start out, is just drawing one cell. That's controlled by this line width value down here. So what we want to do is we want to set this to 9 because I want my lines to be 9 cells wide. Okay, now we see a nice shadow here that tells us where it's going to draw. And if I put my mouse down there in the corner and then draw across here, I can get my 9 cell wide lines like this. Okay. So I'm just drawing all my lines in. And actually, I probably should have undone that before I did this, but I'll show you quick the eraser tool. So I can click on the eraser tool, which says that you can click and drag to erase cells. So with the left mouse button, okay. So it's still set to size 9, so it's pretty easy to erase that. Okay. All right, so that's the end that we're done with that erase tool. We erased all that stuff in the middle. Okay, now, since we've got something drawn on here, I want to save this. Notice that up here in the left corner, it says no project name. That means we've created a project, but we have not saved it yet. It doesn't have a name. And the asterisk here indicates that the project has changes in it, that there are things that have been changed in it that should be saved. So to save a project, we go to Project, Save, and we'll give it a name. Calvin Rug 2, and say Save Project. Okay, and now up here it says Calvin Rug 2, 180 columns by 66 rows. Notice the asterisk is gone, and if you look while I edit, you'll see that asterisk reappear there. That indicates that you've got changes that you can save. Okay, and if at any time you want to see what the project, more about the project information, the project that you're working on, or the colors that are used in it, you can click on this name up here and project information will come up. That tells you the size of your project, its finished size in inches, what your palette that's being used, and that kind of thing. Okay, so we've got that, and then okay, so now we need to draw the text in the center of the screen. All right, we're going to do that with this text tool. But before I go in there, I'm going to make my colors, my letters be a different color. I don't want them to be blue. They're eventually going to be all different colors, but I'm going to start out with red. So this is going to draw the word Calvin. It'll all be in red. And then later we'll use the fill tool to recolor the letters. Okay, so that's that. And also, before I go in there, I want to set up the show mouse position. So that was display show mouse position. And now when I move the mouse around, notice that there's a bubble that tells you your row and column position. Now it has quite a bit of information packed into those two little parentheses. On the left side, that set of parentheses are showing your row number. If notice that I move it up here to the top, I get 1, comma 66. That means that I am one row from the top and 66 rows from the bottom. If I move it down here, I get 66, comma 1. That means I'm 66 rows from the top and one row from the bottom. The pair of numbers on the right side are the column positions. So for instance, if I put my mouse over here, I get 1, comma 180. That means a one column from the left, 180 from the right. If I do that over here, I get 180 from the left and one column from the right. You can use this really easily to find the middle of of your um, your project. So for instance, if you look at the row numbers on the left side, they say 33, 34. Now there's an even number of rows in here, so you can't get to a center row, but that's as close to the middle as you can get. And you can tell because those two numbers are together, when the numbers are the same or as close as they can get, that's the center of your project. And likewise with the numbers on the right, if you move back and forth, you can find the center or the close to the center of your project as you can get if you have an even number of rows or columns. Okay, so that's what those numbers show you. Now, let's go in and put some text in. So we're going to pick the Draw Text tool. Okay. Again, if it's the first time you've picked this, you will get a hint that tells you to drag the mouse to select a rectangular area where you would like to place text. Okay. I say, okay, great. That's what I need to do. I need to make a rectangular area to place the text. Now, this area, as we'll find out, is not absolute. So what you're doing here is you're creating a starting place for your text. If your starting place is too short and the text is longer, it will automatically resize later. And if you want to change the height of it, you have a way to do that once you're inside the text tool area. Okay, so we're just going to let this go. Okay, there's some sample text, ABC, that is in here, and it's entered down here in the bottom left. So we're going to be putting in Calvin. Okay, just type that in there. You don't have to hit enter or anything like that, and the text will update when you pause typing. Okay, so here's Calvin. Now we can do different things with this. We can set a different font. Okay, so this is an Amaranth font. You can turn bold on. You can turn italic on. Some fonts do not have bold and italic, but some of them have both. Some of them have only one. So if you're clicking on a button and it's not doing anything, then that font doesn't have that particular option. So that's that one. Let's see, there's some others here. We can pick different things. There's some script type things. There's a script like that, dancing script, all kinds of different things that you can do with this. Okay, even a English font, Old English type font. And what I picked for this rug was the font Baloo, because I thought that would look nice on a children's rug. It has kind of nice, friendly looking letters that are kind of rounded and look like they would be good for a child's rug. Okay, then so after I've got my font selected, I'm going to make this size be 30. That's what I used for the previous example. And I'm going to move this around. Now notice, see, when I've got my mouse here and I'm moving it around, I've got that bubble that shows me where my mouse position is. But when I put my mouse down, click the mouse down on this rectangle and drag it, Notice that the bubbles go to the corners. So there's one in the upper right that tells you position of that upper right corner, and one in the lower left that tells you position of the lower left corner. Okay, so you can now use this information to center the text right to left and up and down. So I'm going to show you that. I've still got the left mouse button, I'm holding it down, and I've got to drag this rectangle around. And I'm going to look at the numbers on the right side of that bubble. So up above on the upper right corner, I've got 153.28. I'm going to mostly look at the 28. And on the bottom left corner, I've got 26.155. So that is 26 from this, the edge of this rectangle is 26 from the left side, and it is 28 from the right side. So that means that I need to move it over one. Okay, so now we've got 27, 27. Okay, so now I know that that rectangle is centered in terms of left to right. Okay, it's 27 from the left, 27 from the right. Now, the text box, you'll notice, is a little bigger than the lettering. That's because it includes the entire font with, lowercase letters and some things that stick up above. So this box will always be a little bit larger than your actual text. Okay, so to find the top of my actual text, I want to just put the mouse over the top of the C, and I notice that the C is basically one line higher than the other characters, so it's a little bit bigger. So let's put our mouse over that. And now we're going to try and center our text, the actual text, inside the box from top to bottom. So notice that my row numbers, which are on the left, that's the left set of parentheses, are 19, 48. So that's 19 from the top. And if I come down here to the bottom of the C, I've got 44.23. So this is 23 from the bottom. So 19 from the top, 23 from the bottom. So we need to move it down. I'll move it down one. Now I've got 20 from the top and 22 from the bottom. So we need to come down one more. Now we've got 21 from the bottom, 21 from the top. So our red letters, the red part of our letters, is now centered on the screen. Okay, and so now we've got it all nice and centered. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click the blue apply button. So we'll just say apply. Okay, and now we have Calvin on our grid. So that applies that floating text rectangle to the grid. And now we have it on our pattern. Okay, we could do a save here. Project, save. Once you've named it, then it will just go and update it. Notice that the asterisk went away when I did that save. So those changes are now saved. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is color the letters. So we want some different colors here. I'm going to make that letter A and the N, I think, were yellow. So I'm going to pick yellow for my foreground color, bright yellow. All right, now, and we're going to use this fill tool down here. So I'm going to click on this fill tool. Again, it has as a hint that comes up and basically tells you that you need to click on an area to fill it. And you can do left mouse button or right mouse button. Left mouse button does foreground color, right mouse button does the background color. So I say got it, and I say okay. Now I want to color this A yellow, and I want this N to be yellow, and the L was a medium aqua, which is down here. There's medium aqua. Medium aqua. So we've got, that's going to be there. And the I is going to be a light cornflower. Let's get that one. Let's see, light cornflower. Okay. So we'll go over here and we fill that with a light cornflower. Let's do another save. It's a good idea to save your project as you're working on it. So you don't lose any changes. Okay, so now what I want is I want a dark blue edge. See how the yellow doesn't really it's not really separated, not differentiated between that and the white. And so at this point, I decided I needed an edge on this. And I wanted to use the dark blue up here that I had picked before to edge all of these letters. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick that dark blue again. Okay. Now, when you're trying to pick something that you have already used, like in this case, I want to get the dark blue that's over here. I don't want to accidentally pick royal blue or something else. So you can click on this checkbox that says Show Used, and that will reduce the number of colors that you're looking at so that you see only the colors that are currently used in your project. So now we click on the dark cornflower, okay, to set that to that. And now we're going to be using something called the outline tool. So next to the fill bucket are some other choices. There's the fill solid, which is the default one. There's the fill checkerboard. And then there's an outline area. We're going to pick outline area. And notice that when I picked one from that little pop-up, it replaces what's on the default down here. So it's easy to click on this again if you were using the same tool over and over again. So now we've got the outline tool selected, and a pop-up comes up, tells us that we are going to click on the on areas that we're going to outline with the foreground color. If we click with the left mouse button, we get the foreground color. If we click with the right mouse button, we get the background color. So you can do either color with a left and right mouse button. We say, got it? Get rid of that. Okay. And then we go and click over here. Now, let's see what happens. Now that's interesting because what we have done is we have forgotten to set our line height back. So our line height is now 9, and it's trying to fill in here 9 layers of stuff, which there's just not any room for. So let's undo that, and let's set our line width back to 1 because we only want 1 layer of blue around the outside of this letter. And now let's click again with our outline tool. Okay, so now we have blue on the outside, blue over here, blue over here, blue there, blue there, blue there. Very, very simple and very, very easy to outline areas. This is really good. I do this with, I've made a sweater for my grandson with a little car on it, and I use the outline tool to outline the area of the car and make a dark outline around it. It's really nice for children's things when you're drawing something like that. Okay, so now we have our project done. Now we go and we say save, and notice there's an asterisk up here. So we know that there's things that we need to save. So let's save it. And that saved it to our same project. Now, if we go to, we can get to the project info either by going under project info here, or we can click up here on this name, and that will take us also to project info. So we've got project info. Now it tells us that we've used 6 colors. Here are the names of all of our colors. And here are the number of cells. It's used in this many cells, 6,053, 4,627. So at this point, if we're purchasing yarn, we know how many little pieces of latch hook yarn we need. It's a little bit more difficult to estimate what to buy for cross stitch and things like that. But for latch hook, it's quite simple. Hirschner sells, at least the time I'm doing this video, packages of 320. So you would take the 6,053 divided by 320. And if there are any colors that you want to test out and make sure they're the right ones for you, you might want to purchase those in small amounts. Like for instance, what I did was I purchased multiple blues because I wanted to find a blue that was actually closest to the actual quilt that I was trying to match. So I did purchase one packet of each of the blues that I thought were possible. And I did end up doing it with light cornflower and dark cornflower. So that's what I used in the end. Okay, so White is white. You can, I purchased all of the white. I purchased all of the other colors, exactly what I needed initially, and then purchased a small amount of the blue until I verified exactly which color blue I really, really wanted to use. Okay, so let's close that. All right, and then the next thing we would do is we probably want to print out of our project. And print is under here, under the project menu. There's print. But before I do that, I want to add some things to it. I want to pick display rule lines. And in here, I would like to show heavy rule lines every 5 cells. So I want extra lines on there because when I'm reading the pattern, it's very helpful to be able to have kind of a grid on there when you're counting, number of cells and where you're at in your pattern and that kind of thing when you're actually doing the latch hooking or cross stitching or anything else that you're using the pattern for. So I will turn that on. And numbering will actually come on automatically when you do print, but if you wanted to see what the numbering will look like ahead of time, you can click display numbering. Now we have some numbers here on there's also some different settings that you can do for the numbers. You can have the number in different ways. The default way is that the top is numbered from left to right and the bottom is numbered from right to left. And then the whole thing, the rows are numbered from the bottom to the top on both sides, but you can change that. You can have the numbers go whichever way you want. There are multiple options, and those options are in here under display, more options. So you can change the numbering up here. You can change the printing size of the cells, and you can also have it print symbols over the colors. This is probably not too important for this particular project because the colors are pretty distinct and they're in their own distinct areas, and it'll be easy to tell which one is which. But if you're doing something fairly complicated, you might want to have symbols generated over the colors. In this case, I don't want that. I'm not going to make any changes there. Then I would go here. There's a video, YouTube video on print and download, so you should watch that and see what the options are here. Print will help you print it to a home printer. Download will download an image of the entire project that you can then use a printing service such as one at Staples or some other a company that will do that printing for you. So that will download the entire picture in one large picture with numbering around it and whatever grid options you've turned on. And so you will have that picture and then you can find a way to print it, yourself. But this print option here will resize the picture. Then you then click print. And this dialog that comes up here is controlled by your browser. I am using the Chrome browser from Google. So that's an easy download. If you just search for Chrome download and go to Google and you can do that if you want it to look exactly like what I'm doing in this video. Okay, the print setup works best with portrait, and you can scroll down here. You can see there's multiple pages, and at the end it tells you what color you're using and the number of cells that color is used in, which will tell you how many pieces of yarn you have to purchase. If you want to print that on your own printer, you select your printer up here and then say print. This is going to be whatever printer your browser is using. This is where this setting is coming from. That's from your browser. I've already, done the project, so I'm going to click cancel on this. Cancel or print, bring you back to this dialog, and here you would just click close if you're all done. If you click view in window, you can look at this printout, this print size thing in another window on your browser, and you could print it from there too. Okay, so now we say close. All right. And that's about it. So that's how I created the pattern for the rug. We've been through the text tool, the line tool, the fill tool, the outline tool, and I also showed you the erase tool for a short period of time there. So just the if you're interested in more things about the Grid Designer, please click the subscribe button. I really need subscribers. Please click the subscribe button. And that's about it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.